Hey everybody, welcome back to another Volition stream. I'm Josh Stinson, the video editor here, and today we're going to be doing another dev chat where we talk to people from the studio and see what it is they do here and how they do it. So today on the couch we've got...
I'm Ray Hazlip, I'm project manager.
And I'm Chris Donley, project manager as well.
And over in the corner we got Mike.
Hey everybody, Mike Watson here, senior community developer for Volition. No new news to report. Saints Row 4 Switch is coming on March 27th. We are not involved with the production of that, but we are going to be supporting it with streams and stuff. It's being done by Deep Silver Fish Labs, who did Saints Row 3 Switch. And that's about it for me. I'm going to turn you back over to the guys now.
All right, thanks Mike. So yeah, we've done quite a few developer chats now where we talk to people, artists and, cinematic artists, a whole bunch of different people who are all in a big, just like rainbow of different disciplines and stuff.
It takes a village.
Yeah, it takes a lot of different types of people, but like one thing we haven't really been able to cover yet are project managers, which we've been talking recently about like, oh yeah, it's been really cool more recently to start talking about how everybody interacts with the different disciplines, because you don't just sit there and do your one thing. You got to talk to other people to make a video game happen. And that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of essentially your entire job is working with everyone, right?
Yeah, if people always talked to each other, we might not have a job,
Yeah, everyone just kind of buries their heads in their computer and they focuses on their one task, and that's fine, but from time to time they are so tunnel vision and laser focused, it's our job just to always see the big picture.
Right. And I actually got the idea to do we should do project managers just because pretty recently we got a whole lot of new project managers. Two of you, is it 3 project managers?
Oh, no.
It was more, right?
At least 3, and then on the production side there's another 2 or 3 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So both of you are very new here, right?
Yeah. I'm exactly a month in at this point.
Really? Wow.
I am about to be 2 months in next week.
Okay, nice. And we were talking about this right before the stream started. It's still really confusing walking around here, right?
Oh yes, it's a maze.
You learn very quick. It feels like an old FPS map where it was just really sprawling and easy to get lost in.
I'm already looking for the cover points and
choke
lines
points.
of fire.
Yeah. And also just to clarify, because we did just say we got a lot of new project managers. It's all for one project. It's not like we've mentioned it before. We are working on a new Saints Row, and it's what everybody is working on right now. But yeah, both of you are pretty new project managers. Have you been project managers in the past, I assume?
I was a project manager and producer for Wargaming for, actually I could just tell you how I started off.
Yeah.
So that was my very first job in the game industry. I started off as a customer support agent about 6.5 years ago now.
Okay.
Then I already had my degree in game design and production and moved my way up in the company, and I was a producer for World of Tanks, producer for World of Warplanes, and finally I did 4 years as a producer and product manager, bouncing back and forth, for World of Warships until I eventually came here back in just past January.
Okay, nice. And
I've been working in games for just about 10 years now. I got my start working at Spark Unlimited back on Lost Planet 3, which was a fun ride. That was my first introduction to games, and I learned quite a bit there, both on how to make a game and how not to make a game.
Right.
But it was a fantastic team. I got to work with the cinematics team there and really get to learn about virtual production and all sorts of different parts of just storytelling in games. And then from there, I did a short stint in mobile because it was, 2009.
Yeah, that was the time.
Yeah, that's where the money apparently was.
Still is.
But I do not miss it. Came back to AAA development. I worked at Heavy Iron for a bit. We did the Disney Infinity port for Disney at one point.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I have some of those
that was
figures.
A lot of fun. Oh, I have all of the figures that they gave them to us. So
nice.
At home, I just got a shelf of all these Disney characters. It's great. And then from there, I went to, it's now Skydance Interactive, but it used to be called Workshop Entertainment. We did it was called Armored Warfare. It was a clone of your World of Tanks.
Yes.
Wow.
So you worked with
Obsidian,
and Gaijin, not Gaijin. It was a Russian developer.
Mail.ru, yeah.
Mail.ru. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes.
Yep, I remember them well.
I have endless stories about how we were like worried sick about Armored Warfare coming out.
I hope it turned out okay because
It did.
Ultimately, yeah, that was a fun trip, but I wanted to try something new, and it was about that time that I went. I've spent the last 4 years or so working with Servios, which is a VR tech startup that got its start right when the HTC Vive was launching. It actually predates it a little bit, but we did like Raw Data and Battlewake, Creed Rise to Glory, a bunch of cutting-edge VR games, which is a lot of fun. But I'm really excited now to be here at Volition because we're working on something really cool, something massive, which is not totally new for me, but working on a massive open world game like this, especially with our own engine, is really exciting. And I get to work with the Core Technology Group, which is just some of the smartest people you will ever talk to. I regularly feel like the dumbest person in the room, which is exactly where I want to be because I can learn from them. Yeah, that's what brings me here.
All right, cool. So, with both of you having quite a bit of experience before this, what's even though you've only been here for a little bit, how different is it being a project manager for something like this compared to stuff in the past?
So Volition has a completely different way of. So I guess part of my experience is my company that I worked with before.
Yeah.
They were mainly a Russian-based and also a Belarusian-based studios with American-based publishing. Here, obviously, we're based right here for development. So it's much more interesting how everything that I can touch or all the teams that I can manage, I can actually see the output of it come in real time as opposed to when you're talking with a different development studio, there's always a 24 to 12 hour turnaround time. You send off a bunch of emails, you do a bunch of documentation, and you just have to trust that it'll just get done in a later time frame. So from my perspective, it's a lot more active from the development perspective. Also from previous experience, I was on the publishing perspective, so a lot of my ideas would be, we should have this put into the game for this reason, and you give a bunch of data sets and justification reasons. Here at Volition, especially working on more fun game, not necessarily more fun, wacky. How's that? More wacky.
Irreverent.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting not to be in a meeting, not to get your ideas shot down because it isn't based in history, but to have your ideas expanded upon because you're like, we could go a little bit further and this could be a little bit sillier. And that's really, really fun, and it makes me smile and laugh every single day.
I imagine a lot of your stuff was all about like data-driven decisions and we have to have analytics to support this.
Data-driven, super analytical, like that. That's a lot of where I got all of my analysis-driven base, just using different services like Tableau or breaking it down, just reading Excel sheets all day long just to justify each and every decision that you're going to make. And that works, and that's great, and that's fun, but coming here and it's like, does this particular thing make people laugh? And that's way more of a different mindset to come to.
So along those lines too, I'm assuming that there's probably a lot less. You're not looking at nearly as much data when going through this stuff. Is it just more actual talking face to face with people then?
It's talking face to face, and from the project manager's perspective, it's more getting time frames of making sure everyone's able to do their task, as opposed to using the data to justify each and every task that we're doing. If the time frame is there and it lines up with each and type of goal that we're trying to hit, during a specific time frame, then we can do it. If it's not going to work, if we just don't have time to do that, then we might have to go ahead and talk about it at a later date. That's completely different from the justification of, do we have this much data? How much money could we possibly get? How many players would enjoy it? So on and so forth. That's completely different from the way I was working before.
Yeah, my experience has definitely been, it's very much a through line for me. Like, I'm used to working directly with developers, working in small groups. A lot of my teams have been very small. Back at Servios, we did a whole game on less than 20 people, right? So it's a very different experience to be in those meetings where you're like, we don't have any data because this is all brand new, and we're throwing things at a wall to see kind of what works and what feels good. There's a lot of play testing, validating your assumptions and hypotheses against real player data, just trying to get people in and be like, hey, was that fun? Because fun is so hard to measure. Like you can't get data that tells you, oh, that was fun. You can get data that tells you, oh, well, our players spent 30 minutes more than they did before the update playing this game, so we think our retention is a little bit better, but we don't know if that was fun or they were just taking longer to get through the level or something, right?
That's actually a different measuring tool that is used in Volition more than other places that I have been, where fun is an actual metric that you're measuring against certain.
I love it.
Yeah.
How in those other places, how is fun measured?
So in the other places I've been, fun is a very nebulous type of thing.
Okay.
But here, fun seems to be measured of, is everyone in the room laughing? Is everyone comfortable? No one's offended? Cool, we're going to go ahead and do this.
Yeah, let's roll with that. Oh, we got something. So it's like fishing almost. You feel like, you might sit there and throw a bunch of things out and prototype all these different features, and 9 times out of 10 it's not fun or it doesn't feel quite right, and then all of a sudden something happens. I was watching our team meeting last time, and I can't say too many details, but we got to see like a brand new feature that was just coming out of prototype, and the whole team, the whole studio, all starts cracking up at the same time, watching just this 5-minute play blast of someone mucking around in the editor. Yeah. And we knew we had gold right there. It was like, okay, that's good. We should follow that.
Okay.
That's the big fish.
So before we get to any more detail-oriented, I guess I've asked this question to most people, and it really depends on who, what they are doing here. But for the two of you, what is an average day like?
Oh, man.
Is it even the same day to day, or is this?
No, it's every day has been a new adventure since I've been here. It's never been the same. So for me today, I was buried in Excel sheets organizing specific things I can't say out loud.
Yeah.
That was most of the entirety of my day today. And the day before, we were having meetings about the new game that we're working on, different sorts of locations for it, and another meeting before that, different sorts of items that we'd be using in those locations. So it's never been the same.
Okay, pretty. I mean, I guess that's, depending on what type of person you are, that's probably a blessing that every day isn't the exact same.
Yeah, there's always novelty.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, one of the things I love about working in production as a discipline in game development is that it is problem solving. There are so many different weird problems that come up in game development because you have all these cross-functional teams of hyper-intelligent, creative people, but there's always going to be gaps between those teams of like, oh, well, we don't really know how these two pieces line up, and production often is in there putting on different hats, learning how the different tools work, and asking the stupid questions, trying to get people to talk and problem solve together, but often also just throwing out wild suggestions of like, well, what if we just did this? And sometimes it works. I
love that.
Yeah, and
I do.
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I've been wrong. Absolutely. But what's fun is it's just you're problem solving, but the problems are always different. Many games will experience similar problems. It's like, how do we make this game fit on disk? That is a big problem. You got to solve it. You can't ship without solving that problem. Right. But every game is going to solve it in a slightly different way because they have different technologies at play. They have different sets of assets they have to work with. And so, you might see the same problem over and over and over again, but it has to be solved a different way almost every time.
Okay.
Which can be super frustrating. But
yeah. So for the two of you, with your experience in previous things, what was like the biggest problem you ever had to face and like try to solve?
Ooh.
Something I can talk about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, something that is okay to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. Man. See, I keep thinking of like, well, can I talk? It's same problem. I'm like, well, can I actually talk about this one?
I mean, if you can't, that's fine too.
I'll use my example, fitting on disk.
Okay.
And I think it's been long enough at this point that I can talk about Lost Planet 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was a long time ago. I was
That's a really good game, by the way.
Huh?
That's a really good game, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it's gotten some recent good press. A lot of the people who did Lost Planet 3 actually went on to work on the narrative team for God of War, the most recent one.
Yeah.
Like Matt Sofos and Rich Gobert, they were part of the Lost Planet 3 writing team. And
I can see some cross intersection.
Oh, yeah, definitely. In fact, I played some of God of War, and I was like, oh, he finally got that narrative point in there. I'm glad, because we had to cut it from Lost Planet 3. Yeah, Lost Planet 3, I remember we had a lot of pre-rendered cinematics. We couldn't fit them all on disc, we discovered very late in development, because we were trying to do really high-end resolution and just go nuts with it because we wanted the quality to really be there. Lo and behold, we weren't going to get the second disc for us to ship on, which meant that everything suddenly had to fit on a single Blu-ray disc instead of a double or 2 discs. And so one of the problems that I had to work with the engineers to figure out, but none of them really had experience with video compression settings in BINC and how video compression affected the size of a file in BINC. And so I would have to spend a lot of time just throwing things into a BINC video converter to try and see what got smaller, what got bigger, and did it maintain our quality. It's not really a production job, but it was literally like there was no one else who could do it. Everyone else is on fire, too busy to work on it. So I'm like, sure, I'll try it. I jump in there, and I remember being up till like 3 o'clock in the morning before Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, trying to make our videos fit on disc, and watching the render farm spit out our play blast and everything, and then coming back after Thanksgiving and being like, I think I figured it out, guys. What do you think? Like, it worked. We shipped. We had to cut some of our cinematics down. It was painful, but I think ultimately, I got to see my own impact in the game, which is something pretty rare for production, right? Yeah. Getting to directly put your hands on stuff in the game is rare for us. So
that was something a mentor of mine when I worked at my previous company told me when I was telling him I wanted to be a producer for this company. Yeah. He said that just be aware you're going to be the unsung hero. You're going to work long hours. Yeah. You're going to work your tail off, and people may never know your name, but you get the satisfaction of knowing that you did this and you get to walk home with this.
Yeah, I had a mentor once who called it the invisible hand of production.
Yeah, yes. I've heard that a couple times.
When things go right, no one knows you did anything at all.
Oh, it's wonderful. Oh, the beautiful Futurama quote.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
So when I came to the team of World of Warships, one of the things that we lacked were certain player resources. It's a very complex game, but it's complex on purpose. It's very, much like the rest of the game, very data-driven, very historical-based. But we didn't have, like, a wiki. Well, we kind of did, but no one was updating it. It was all completely blank, and it was our unofficial wiki. So what I did was in the first 3 days I was on the team, I was just going through all of our documentation, and I noticed our players didn't have, like, a wiki. Our other sister products, World War Plans, World Tanks, they had a wiki, so I said, why is this missing? What can we do to fix it? And my manager at the time said, well, you can fix it. I said, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I went to the forums, I put the call out, I said I need the most dedicated players that believe you have the best historical knowledge and you're really good at the game. And I said I'm going to go ahead and take you, I'll vet you, which just meant like you go into their forum history or you go into their play history, you see how many violations did you do, any in-game violations, and how many forum violations would you do. If they were like all crystal clear, you can see they were knowledgeable, come on over to this team, and we completely rebuilt it. So the way I judged its metric on it being a success or not is for like a tank in the game World of Tanks previously, if you search like the, forgive me historian, I think it's M24 Hellcat. I've been out the game for a while.
Oh, someone's going to be writing an
right, I get it. I can feel it. I sense it coming. But if you search for the Hellcat, you would get the actual historical vehicle, then you get like one other link to like the Wikipedia, then you get the World of Tanks Wikipedia article. So you get like the real thing, the user-based one, the Wikipedia site, and then the video game version. And so my goal was I want the video game version of any one of our ships to be like the third link when you do a blank Google query. And so what that required is we would work with Google Metrics. We would go ahead and set the actual information on the historical section correct, all the in-game items of it correct. I would go ahead and vet each and every wiki page that was out there. And by the time I was on my way, exiting the company, it wasn't in top 3, but it was in top 6. So that was one issue I was able to solve. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I've always wondered, especially because not every studio is going to have very specific rules for working on things like that. Who usually ends up working on that stuff?
It's usually
This guy.
It's another thing. One of my managers once said, "The person that brings up a problem just volunteered to fix it."
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah. No, but that's a good rule of thumb in general. Is like, if you're gonna raise a problem, you better have a solution in hand. Like,
don't come asking the question unless you've got like at least
your
3
job
answers.
is to solve problems. So if you're bringing problems and not solutions, you're not doing your job.
That is the gig.
Also, I can say I can relate to that problem you brought up because I'm the person who does the binks here.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm sure you've had some late sleepless nights.
Yeah. Thankfully, we already had some pretty good guidelines for binks all the way back for Agents of Mayhem, at least. So we didn't, as far as I know, we didn't have too many storage problems as far as videos went in that game. But it was still, we had hundreds of bink videos for that game because every agent needed like more than a dozen for all their abilities and stuff. So it was, I had days where I was just watching a bar slowly fill hundreds of times in a single day because it's like, we had to update them because everything looks different now. Anyways,
we changed the hat color on one agent.
That's why I have
15 different scenes. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's why I have 3 PCs in my office, so one can just render and I can still do work.
One's just a render farm, sitting there.
Pretty much. Okay, so you have to work with. Oh, actually, before I get to that, you were talking earlier, both of you, about either measuring fun for previous projects or checking up on progress with playtests and stuff. I'm assuming that means project managers are also pretty heavily involved with user research.
They can be.
Playtests?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Production, I mean, project management, production, there's a lot of, you got to validate that you're actually delivering a product that is to spec, right?
Yeah.
Our biggest thing is we're trying to hit a target that we have somehow worked to define with our team, with our business partners, with our customers. Our customers are expecting a certain level of quality. And that quality assumes a certain level of fun.
Yeah.
So it's like how do you measure that? Well, imperfectly, you gather data. You put it in front of people. You ask them how they feel about it. You watch how they feel about it. I've participated in playtests where we literally would record the entire session and then watch like how many times they smile and use that as a metric.
Okay.
Like, how can I quantify fun? I can't, but I could try to like figure out ways of observing it and seeing if it's going to hit our target.
Okay.
Lots of feedback surveys. Anytime we can get like a specific portion of a game in front of some people that have never seen it before, never touched it before, and of course they've signed like 3 or 4 NDAs.
Yeah.
Just don't talk about it. And you get their feedback, you get their interpretation, you ask them, how'd you feel about this? How did this feel? How did this section feel? When this action was happening to you, how did that make you feel? And then, obviously, that is completely subjective data.
Yeah.
I don't think the word quantify can be appropriately used here, because if someone says on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel? You're like, I felt 5. Well, what does that 5 really mean? Does that 5 just mean you found nothing wrong with it, or you were excited about it? It's not like truly quantifiable. It's just quantifiable like just enough. So you take that and then you get your base metric for fun, as it were, and it becomes kind of a guessing game. But that's also why most people, I want to say, like, I haven't met anyone in the studio yet that isn't a video game player themselves. All of us kind of know what fun feels like at a certain point. There are some people that love more puzzle games or sports games. Maybe Saints Row games isn't 100% of something that they play all the time. That's okay. They have a different metric for fun, and their metric for fun we can also kind of use in other sections of our game that we're all building. Okay.
So we got a question from Mike asking, how does this all overlap with user research?
A lot. I mean, it is user
Every
research.
day.
We're often coordinating with user research. Sometimes we are the only user research group, depending on the size of the studio, right?
Yeah.
Back at Servios, we didn't have a user research group. We were very blessed here to have one, which means that is a weight off of my shoulders. I can trust someone else is doing that and probably doing a better job of it than I did, right? Mm-hmm. But back at Servios, we were a small independent studio. I was in charge of the user research for my game because if I didn't do it, no one else would.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a problem I've seen other people in other disciplines bring up. Basically, anybody who's working on a game, you're working on it for so long. For it's your job, your daily job.
Yeah.
For project managers, do you also have the issues sometimes you're too deep in a game and you have to like pull back to really try and reassess, like, is this actually good, or am I just so deep into this and so you're seeing this, I think it's good?
Yes, and I learned long ago that there's a metric I use to get away from that.
Okay.
Is when I get home or on a weekend, the game I'm working on, I just try not to play. I will play a similar game, or I will absorb other media like books or movies.
Okay.
And typically good books or movies, or good books or movies, or good games or bad games. That way I can measure, this was good. Most of the zeitgeist of the population agrees that this is good. Why? Why do I feel it's good? And then you look at our game, you say, why is this good? Does this feel good? Would someone else agree that this is good? And something else that you could do is I watch a lot of YouTube reviews of games and media, and I like to hear their opinion. Why do they think it's good? Why do they think it's bad? Do I even agree with them? I've seen media, I'll just take one media that's not game related, Alien Covenant. I'm a huge fan of the Alien series. I love Alien 1 and 2. 3 doesn't exist. Resurrection doesn't either.
It's fair.
3 things is fine, but Covenant is just, oh no. But that's my opinion.
Right.
I just, like, before we came here, on my lunch break, I watched a review of, I think it's okay to say his name, Jason Stuckman Reviews. He loved the movie. He said it was good. He said it has problems, but he really liked it. I'm like, I hated this movie and hated the fact that I paid money in the theater to watch it. But that's okay, because I'm getting that different opinion to, like, remove myself from my biases and see other people's different opinions. So that's where research becomes important, and that's where removing myself away from the game to make sure that I'm doing something okay for the game.
Okay. That's really cool to know, because I've asked people a lot, how much they play other games just for research purposes, and everyone does, but you're the first person I think who sounds like you do it a lot.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Podcasts, YouTube videos, anytime I get home, if I'm having fun for a game, I'm playing like Smash Brothers Ultimate. But
I thought I saw you playing Smash earlier today.
Yes. So there's a Smash Ultimate tournament going on in the office.
Yep.
And I lost the first round, but I'm back in. I got out of the loser's bracket.
Okay.
But if I'm playing any other game, it's specifically for my own like mental research, and I'll have like a notebook at the side. Like other games, some of the games that you worked on, some of them people bash, but sometimes I'll get them on like a Steam sale or something like that. Try it out for myself and for my own opinion, and see what I like or dislike about it.
I love playing all games. I play good games. I play bad games. Honestly, all media to a certain extent in my mind is somewhat of a miracle. Having seen how projects come together, how chaotic they can be, especially creative projects where you're making a film, you're making a game, especially games, or writing a book, or running a D&D campaign. Like all of these things are such chaotic mishmashes of hard work and creative thought. And especially when you have a large group of people working on it, it's a fucking miracle that they even come together at all by the end, right?
Yeah.
So there's always something of value to pull out of even a bad movie, even games that do poorly or don't sell well. Games I've worked on have not sold well, and yet I'll run into someone years later who tells me, "Hey, I really enjoyed that game." And to me, that's all that matters. Like I don't care what the reviews say. I don't care what Sure, Metacritic is important. A lot of our bottom line is based on how well we do on Metacritic.
Yeah.
But that's just one data point out in a sea of many things. If one person out there enjoyed a game that I worked on, that's why I do this. That's what I love about
Someone
this
had fun.
industry. Someone had fun. Awesome. Mission accomplished.
By the way, one of our regulars in the chat, Matrix Vinjian, wanted to let Ray know that there's an official Alien tabletop RPG now if you're into that type of thing.
Nice.
I actually did not know that, and now I'm tempted to buy that.
Yeah.
Immediately. I'm curious if it's based on Aliens or Alien.
Yeah, they say Alien, but who knows?
Okay, so there's probably if I'm just picturing in my head, just one monster piece roaming around. You have to avoid it. I'm in. I'm down with that.
Okay.
Too many monsters, you're out. Okay.
That actually reminds me of the game Alien Isolation. I actually couldn't finish that game. because it freaked me the hell out.
That game did a really good job at making that alien scary as hell.
Best game in the property. I think Creative Assembly made it. That's one of the better horror games I think ever, because I was legitimately scared the entire time playing that game.
I'm curious if you have an opinion about this with that game, because I haven't played the whole thing, but from what I played, I've really enjoyed it. A decision I really like that I've seen other people not like as much is the fact that saving actually takes time purposefully.
Yeah. They're bringing back, if I had to like guess or kind of like try to figure out, they're bringing back something like Resident Evil, where each time you saved it cost you something.
Yeah.
So in Resident Evil it costs you ink ribbons, and this one it costs you like precious time. You don't know where the xenomorph is.
Yeah, you could get hit in the middle of saving, and then you lose this. Yeah,
you lost the save because it saw you doing it. You can't just like you can't scum save in the middle of it.
Yeah.
If you put it on like the hardest difficulty, that is an unfair experience because that thing, the way it's programmed is it's thinking like a human would think.
Yeah.
So if you think you could just hide under a table and kind of sneak over to where like the nearby save telephone is, it's waiting in the rafters for you to save at the top.
telephone.
Yes, and it'll just drop it on you.
Clever girl.
We have another regular in the chat, Feared Symmetry, saying, please let these guys know I love their approach to game design and management. I put my trust in their ability to bring on the fun.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Really do.
Let's try not to violate that trust.
No pressure.
No
pressure. That's all right. When I came to Volition, I had several developers tell me like, "Hey, no pressure, but if the next one sucks, it's on you. I'm coming for you."
So this is a thing I've asked a couple other people, because generally when we've had other people on, I've asked them, what was your interview like here? And generally the answer has been like, if they're an artist, had to do an art test, interview was about 6 hours. What is an interview for a project manager like? Is it about the same, or?
7, 8.
Basically a full
it was an
work day?
all-day thing, yeah, for sure. But that's pretty standard in the games industry. I've never had an interview that was less than 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm just curious, because there's some disciplines have to also do some type of test. If there's something like that for project managers.
I didn't do that here, but I've certainly applied for and worked at places that did a production test. Bungie has a really interesting production test. I can't go into details about it, but I really liked their test because it was very data driven. It's like basically they drop a bug database on you, and you don't have a whole lot of context for the bugs, but they're like, hey, tell me when we're going to hit 0 bugs. That's it. That's all the guidance you get.
Okay.
And it's just a giant, unfiltered bug database that you got to go through and really assess. Like, okay, what's our burn rate? How quickly are we going to get through these bugs? Are some features not going to make a certain date? Like, we have a hard date we have to hit. Is it time to cut bait on a certain feature or thing we got to do because the game won't ship with if we keep that feature in because its bugs aren't going to hit 0?
This seems like a trick question. Yeah. Because how many games have just like 100 known shippables just inside the disk?
Oh, every game that ever ships has bugs.
Exactly. So that seems like a total. They're setting you up for like.
It is, but it gives you some guidance. Like if you think you're gonna bounce at 0 bugs at a certain date, you think, okay, well, most of the really bad bugs will be resolved by then.
Yeah,
you know that you're going to prioritize the worst ones, and that whatever's left at that point should hopefully, knock on wood, not be anything that anyone out there really notices or cares about.
Right.
But I have never shipped a bug-free game.
It's impossible.
Especially with software and the complexity of our games nowadays. These vast worlds that we create with interlocking systems and interlocking teams that often aren't talking to each other. Bugs are going to happen, and thank goodness we have patching and we can update things on the fly and hopefully prevent most of the really nasty ones from getting out there.
I think the only bug-free game is like Tetris on the Game Boy.
I doubt it. I bet there's some speedrunner out there who's figured out how to corrupt the memory of Tetris by doing something weird.
I wanted to say Pong, but I've seen Pong bugs.
Yeah.
So even just 2 lines in the pixel, you're going to have some bugs.
Yeah.
And just if the complexity that goes up from there, you're going to have more and more bugs.
Yeah.
There's no way to avoid it. But, you want to always be assessing your bugs based on the perspective of your end user, how your customers are going to behave when they encounter this bug. Is it a tiny little bit of Z-fighting where 2 textures are overlapping and it's like, that's... it's in a tiny little corner of a room underneath a bench. No one's going to see that there. That's a low priority bug. We'll deal with it if we get time. Whereas like, I'm falling through the world on a path that my car always drives down during this particular mission. Well, you better hope to God you didn't ship with that bug.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be complaining.
Okay, so we have Matrix Vinci in the chat again asking, in terms of that team intercommunication, how has it been at Volition?
Great. Awesome. Yeah, I can walk up to anyone's desk. I can communicate to them with like the online tools that we have, and everyone's been extremely friendly. Anyone has given me any answer I've been looking for. I'm like it's funny to admit, but I'm openly admitting it. I was like, for the first couple days, I'm like the project manager walking around just completely lost. Like, my job is not to be lost, but oh man, am I lost right now.
Something I found really helpful was literally on my phone, like just bringing up the internet and just bringing up that floor.
Oh my gosh, that's one of the best things I've ever seen in the company.
It's the only way I know where anybody is, like, because I've looked at that map so many times. I just know, like...
Yeah,
I love that map, man.
It's a great tool. It looks like it's a little older. It looks like it was made in Windows 98. Doesn't matter. It's one of the tools that gets the most usage out of me. The entire employee yellow book or white pages thing.
The team lists, the floor plan. I always have Handsoft open because that's my life. But
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a time here in Volition where I've approached the situation. I knew I needed to go ahead and arrange a meeting, and I'm the new guy, so I always have the sense of who am I to arrange the meeting. But then I remember myself, nope, that's why I'm here. Let's go ahead, arrange a meeting, get everyone to a room, and then say, here's some issues I found, or here's some organizational issues I found. I want to go ahead and correct them, and everyone's on board.
Yeah.
They've never had any issues, and it's always fun.
I've been very pleasantly surprised just to come in here and have everybody be incredibly welcoming, humble. People like Volition's been making games for decades, right?
Yeah.
That's very rare in this industry. Like, average burnout time for a studio is like 5 years, so it's slightly longer than the average burnout time for for individual developers. Volition's been around for 26 years, which is insane to me. But you can kind of tell by talking to the people here, they have an easygoing manner, that they know what they're doing, but they're also humble and understanding that other people may have good ideas and that it's worth having a conversation.
Yep.
I've never seen conversations get shut down by ego or, hey, stay out of your lane, that's not your department. I'm sure it happens, but I've been very happy to see just everybody be very collaborative. Which is the biggest thing in games. Is no one person can make a game. We're not in the days of Pong where the programmers were making their own art and animations and everything.
Days are long. Well, unless you're an indie studio.
Sure, but
even then that kind of limits
what we're making
what
here.
you can make too.
Yeah, even most games that were the people said they made this entire game by themselves. Some of my favorite games, indie games ever, Undertale and AM2R.
Yep.
I love Toby Fox. I follow him on Twitter. He's one of my favorite devs ever. But even he admits he didn't make everything himself.
Yeah.
That artist Temmie, she did a lot of art, and she's in the game as that cute little creature Temmie.
Yep.
I get sometimes. One thing that bugs me about the current game culture and game industry culture is that we have these ideas of these rock star developers. There's Cliffy B and these other guys who created these incredible franchises. And they're great. They're visionaries, and they did incredible work. But they were supported by incredible teams around them too. Those guys should get credit too. It's not just the Kojimas and the Cliffy B's. It's everybody around them. I started this off by saying it takes a village, and I really truly do believe that games and film and a lot of creative pursuits are greater because of the collaborative nature of them.
You can't just say you have a visionary idea, you have a great design, you have a great story. You need hundreds of people to make it real, though.
Yeah. If you want to do it all on your own, go write a book.
Basically.
Or be an indie dev. That's cool. You could do that.
And like I said, most indie devs I've played their games. I think the only indie game I played where it was 100% just one guy was Dust an Elysium Tale. I think that was it. But even then, it took 10 years.
Yes, it took that person a very long time to make that game.
And that's a testament to how much effort that takes.
Yeah. Chris, earlier we were talking about bugs and all that. We haven't actually talked about this before. We've talked about some of our internal tools and all that. But can you explain more about what Handsoft is?
Oh man,
'Cause it's a very important thing.
Buckle
here.
up, everyone.
Oh boy!
Anyone who's a developer out there is immediately going to groan and shut down the stream. So I'm sorry if your user numbers go down. Handsoft is a bug and task tracking database, very similar to Jira or DevTrack.
Similar to
there's a bunch of other ones. Hey man, I've used them both for years. They've all got problems. But whatever the case, it's effectively a way for us to take a really complicated thing like a project, a games project, break it down into manageable pieces, assign pieces of metadata to that information, so time estimates, details on what the work is, who's going to do it, what other work it's connected to or blocking that would prevent it from getting done. Dependencies like we're going to make a character, we need to have an animation. Well, we got to make sure that there's a task representing the animation that's going to go into that character. It's a way to just organize. It's effectively a giant spreadsheet. It's an Excel sheet that can connect in 4 dimensions almost, right?
Yeah.
And Handsoft has some powerful tools that allow you to build Gantt charts out and really organize your team, and then connect that all up to bugs, which then have their own what we call workflows or very specific steps that a bug goes through. The bug is first found and by a tester or even a developer finds the bug. They put it into the database. It might require certain data fields to be filled out. So steps to reproduce that bug, where it was found, who found it, how severe is it, how much does it impact the player experience. And all of that data goes into a big spreadsheet that then project managers like Ray and myself will go and look at and say, okay, well, we've got 7,000 bugs and 250 of them are critical A blockers. How do we properly allocate all of these out to the different people on our team and make sure that they have all the information and all the assets and all the resources they need to complete either a bug or a task? That's kind of long and short of it, but it is. It can be a difficult thing, especially in development, because people don't like necessarily updating that stuff, keeping their Handsoft or their Jiras up to date, putting all that information into a database can be time consuming, and it's distracting. It's not what most developers signed up for. I didn't. Animation students didn't go to school and think, oh, one day I'll be putting all this stuff into Shotgun and it'll be so exciting. No, they were dreaming about building creative, awesome scenes.
Yeah.
So my goal is always to kind of minimize the impact of whatever system we're using, whether it's Jira or Handsoft or whatever. It's like, how can I use this tool to augment and increase the efficiency of my team without dragging them down with bureaucracy, right?
Okay.
So the way I use, in this case, Handsoft, I actually like the way you put that minimal impact to the actual end user, is that I've actually, if you look at my section of Handsoft, I've actually just started labeling them by names of this person, here are all of your tasks, this person, here are all your tasks. That way they're not looking at the entirety of the tool with all of its drop-downs. They're just saying, like, okay, what do I have to do
to you?
Exactly.
Yeah, let me worry about all the other moving pieces. I'm going to be running around with my hair on fire trying to find the people who are going to do this asset or provide this piece of equipment. You just focus on doing the work that's right in front of you.
Yep.
Okay. This was a question that was asked far earlier from the chat, but it kind of makes sense to ask it now. From Feared Symmetry again. For the both of you, you got any favorite teams to work with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so currently I'm the project manager for weapons, vehicles.
Teams internally here at Volition or elsewhere?
Yeah, internally, like with all the different teams that you work for.
Okay. Yeah. So weapons, vehicles, lighting, and different sort of in-game environments.
Okay.
Well, not environments, environment objects, my apologies. So I really enjoy working with the lighting team because one of the small features of games, the only time you really notice bad lighting is when bad lighting is present.
Yep.
If it's good lighting, very few people will remark on it. They'll just say, oh, this game looks really good. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it looks really good because of the lighting, and I love watching the work that our very tight-knit lighting team creates. They're very, very talented artists that have a very good eye for it. And working on the weapons team, I think that speaks for itself. honestly.
I mean, yes.
Vehicles a close second.
Vehicles are just as fun, but no, weapons.
Weapons,
Yeah,
yeah.
you should,
The guns.
if you go to the second floor and you see the board of weapons that we have coming, go there for a laugh sometimes.
All right, we'll do. For myself, I've been here a month, so I haven't had a ton of time to interact with most other teams. I'm focused on the core technology group, which is kind of it's a central hub around which many of the other groups just kind of touch on when they need something. We are effectively a service group that is building the core technology stack of the studio. It's not just Saints Row. It's not just one title. It's how are we building the technology that will build up our engine, build up our tools and our tech, and the different external tools we use. How do we build tools that work effectively with Photoshop and Max and Maya and all these other tools, and smooth people's workflows out so they can produce the most assets, the most work, most efficiently. I think that's really exciting. I got to work with a similar group back at my last good job, and like I said, it's almost all engineers. They're all incredibly intelligent people who are focused on trying to make life easier for others.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of glory in it necessarily. It's not like you get to make a shiny new weapon and see awesome explosions and see how the god rays shine down through.
It's totally necessary though, because without those tools, the job becomes so much harder.
Yeah, there's the people who enable everyone else to actually make cool shit.
And then on top of that, we do get to do some of the cool stuff. So like the rendering team gets to work on the weather system, because that is so intertwined with how we're going to show weather in a world. Is all dependent on how well it performs. It's a very expensive thing to do in modern game engines. So we have to develop some real cutting edge technology to do that. And I love having those conversations with people and figuring out those problems.
Okay.
Outside of that, I love working with QA because they are the closest to our actual customers.
The QA team is probably the most fun team in the office because they're the most laid back and they laugh the most, I'd say, of everyone here.
Yeah, I definitely want to spend a little bit more time getting to know them and maybe get into some Smash Brothers tournaments at some point.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There's some very talented Smash Brothers players here.
We'll see. I'm a pretty good Bowser man myself. So.
Really?
It's too bad the two of you didn't start earlier, because we actually did a Smash stream here last year.
Oh, really?
All
Yeah, I mean,
would love that.
Count me in for the next one.
Yeah, if we got like a slow week or something for streams or something, we could totally do that again.
100%.
Yeah.
Get my Terry Bogard right out here.
Oh man, I haven't been able to play Terry yet. Is he?
He's really he's like Ken in a lot of ways, except he has a constant super meter whenever he gets 100% stamina.
Yeah.
So now you can just bust out supers all day long with no negative cost to it.
Oh man, I gotta play Terry. Okay, so the two of you being assigned to different teams, I'm curious, when you come to apply for a project manager role, is it ever, we're looking for this type of project manager to manage these types of teams? Do you need different types of experience to manage different types of teams? Or can it kind of apply to anyone?
So I can go first. Yeah. Basically, when I came to Volition, it was the groups I have were strictly based on my work experience before.
Okay.
So the work experience before, when I was a producer for at Wargaming, a lot of my production experience came from like vehicle recommendations, feature recommendations, implementations on whenever you're testing different vehicles, how would that affect the in-game world and the sort of data sets that were produced. So that's why I'm working on weapons, vehicles. The lighting is just because, there was no one helping them or didn't have enough time to help them. Like, I could totally do that as well. Whatever.
You go where you're needed off.
Yeah. So at first, basically it was like based on experience of what I knew.
Okay.
Yeah. Similarly, I've been to places where it's just like, hey, we need a production guy. Come on, get in here. We don't know what's wrong, but we know there are problems, and you're here to help. So just get into the pool with us, and we'll figure it out. And then Volition's been a little bit more organized about that, which is nice.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Where do you see yourself working, and what would you like to work on? It's like, that's the first time I've been asked that. But I definitely I jumped at the chance to work with Core Tech because I love working with engineers. I love working with smart people. People who just immediately get it. And sometimes it could be tough because you feel like the dumbest person.
That sounds so intimidating.
It does, and it is. But it's also exciting because you learn the most. You're challenged the most by these people who are just all rocket scientists. Honestly, in my mind, I look at most engineers as fucking wizards.
Yeah.
We are reshaping reality around us, changing the rules of this reality that we've built for ourselves. And I'm just the guy working at the mage school, helping them get their tomes together and preparing their spell components and shit.
That's another thing I want to ask too. Is just from managing the different teams over time, I'm guessing you probably get a better understanding of how they do what they do too?
Yeah, everyone has a specific discipline. Everyone has a different mindset. Everyone has a different way of looking at the world. And when you're doing organization, it's best to go ahead and have a leader that you're working with to say I want this person to do this. Do you think they're capable of doing this in a correct amount of time? You get the leader's opinion, you get your opinion, and then you go ahead and assign that person that task, and you put your trust in them that they're going to go ahead and get it done in the amount of time. And that typically works out the best.
Okay.
Yeah, trust the experts. I have been in situations where I've had people hand wave and say, "Oh, we don't need to worry about that. That won't take us more than 3 days to do, or whatever."
Oh man,
it drives me nuts. Going back to the experts, the people who are going to do the work, talk to them, ask them how they think the problem should be solved. Do they think it's a problem in the first place? Could we solve it a different way? I do not want to ever be prescriptive in how a problem gets solved. It's just asking the questions of what do you think this would take to solve? How much time do you think that would take? You ask those stupid questions, but you get good data from that, and that informs the best decisions.
All right, cool. We got about 10 minutes left, so I want to wrap up by asking some questions I ask everybody here. What games have you been playing?
Smash Ultimate.
Okay.
I just started a brand new file of Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Mm-hmm. How many times have you played through it?
I haven't played it yet.
Oh, okay.
This is my first time going through it. I admit the marketing worked on me.
All right.
Because when they introduced Byleth in the Smash Ultimate, I'm like, all right, fine. What is this game about? The last Fire Emblem.
There are a lot of characters from Fire Emblem.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it. Yeah, that's a whole rant in and of itself. For $5.99, she breaks your shield. But other games. Actually, those would probably be the ones that take up the most of my time currently.
Okay.
Currently waiting on the games. I'm in waiting period between being here. Doom Eternal.
Yep.
And my beautiful deluxe edition pre-order of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Me too.
Waiting with bated breath for that game.
It would have come out next Tuesday if that delay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Take the time, please. Take
it's fine.
the time.
I also want. Yeah, it's
I got
only
plenty of other games to play.
I got lots of stuff. I got a big backlog I'm going through, so that extra month is kind of a blessing.
Yeah. Remember when we all thought that game was dead? And there was one of the most popular tweets trending for that time was this crap meme of Final Fantasy VII that's never going to come out.
They just announced it real early. They got to work on it first.
Yeah. So Square has that legacy.
They have a track record of doing that.
Yes,
though.
So there's a game coming out 10 years later.
10 years later.
Here it is.
Versus
15.
Yeah.
Hey man, Versus 13 is coming back at Kingdom Hearts 3.
Is it?
It's weird. It's weird.
It's weird.
Wait, you're being serious, aren't you? Oh wow, I did not.
It's going to be its own world that you go. Awesome.
I did beat that game. I think that was last year when it came out.
That's what I'm playing right now.
I have to try that one.
When you do beat it, let's go ahead and have a conversation about it. I'll talk you down.
Well, keep in mind, I'm also playing the version that's got a bunch of new stuff in it.
Oh, you're playing the updated version.
And
okay.
There's that DLC that adds a bunch of other stuff to the end of it as well too.
That'll probably be a lot better for you.
That's where that Versus 13 stuff comes in. Yeah.
Myself, I've been. I love playing looter shooters, so I have a little clan with some friends on Destiny that I like to play.
I completely forgot. Yes, I'm constantly playing Destiny.
Destiny is great.
Okay.
They do gunplay better than anybody else, I think.
Bungie's kings of making a gun feel good.
Yeah, they are. They're so good. And then I actually just picked up Division 2. Been playing that a little bit. I really enjoyed the first one, though I didn't finish it. It got the enemies were a little bullet spongy for me, but I'm enjoying the second one so far. And then also some Red Dead Online. I play a little bit of that. I like to play a lot of open world games. I'm here at Volition for a reason.
Yep.
But outside of that, I really enjoy Satisfactory. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
No, I never heard of this.
This is it's an early access title on Epic Game Store.
This is actually a one of our it's another THQ studio.
Oh.
Yeah.
THQ Film Game. Okay.
Coffee Stain, they actually visited the studio last year.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've been enjoying it since very early in their early access period, and it's just a nice, relaxing game where you are effectively building a giant factory to process all the resources of a planet.
Yep.
But it's about like streamlining workflows, creating pipelines to generate screws and bolts and metal plates and stuff.
Is this
so you can build
Factorio
bigger
you're
things.
talking about?
It's like Factorio, but imagine it's like a first-person 3D game.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're running around. You build all these different plants. Making stuff, extracting resources. You like build trucks. And you're driving around and all that stuff. It's
Yeah,
I haven't personally played it yet, but it looks like really satisfying.
I'm very excited. I've probably tonight I'm going to go finish my space elevator add-on and send my first shipment of widgets up into space, and I might crack a beer in celebration.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, outside of video games, you said you watch a lot of movies too. Are you both of you into movies?
I like movies.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I love a ton of different sorts of sci-fi movies, action movies. You know, I admit, after I finished Avengers Endgame, I fell off the superhero movie train so hard because that was so much time, so much energy, so much money. Congrats, Disney and Marvel, you got a ton of that money.
All of the money.
All of it. Okay, good job. But I after I saw Avengers Endgame, I'm like, I need like a 5-year break from superhero movies. I also watch I wouldn't say a ton, but my fair share of anime.
Okay.
So 2 weeks ago, I finished Gundam Thunderbolt, and I'm currently going through part 5 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh,
Love it.
man.
Love it so
Mike
much.
and we're both in the JoJo too.
I'm watching the arc of Giovanni.
Giorno Giovanni.
That's right. And I hate the art style of it, but I love the story so much. I can't stop watching it.
Yeah, five is even compared to all the other JoJos. 5 is the one because I haven't gone further than 5. I've been meaning to read the rest, but I haven't.
Yeah, read the mangas.
But 5 is like every time it's like, oh, it's time for dudes to fight.
Yeah.
You're not punching. You're experiencing like a fever dream nightmare. It's like, oh, here's a dude who can make zippers appear anywhere.
Yes.
Here's a dude who has a human-seeking fishing line that can go through walls. He has to slow his heart down, so he unzips all of his body parts.
Yep.
And it is madness. That's why it's so good, though.
I have to ask you and Mike the obligatory question. I have my answer. Who's your favorite JoJo?
Oh, Jotaro.
Jotaro. Okay, I can respect that answer. I love his stand. His stand is my favorite. Star Platinum might be my
Platinum
favorite.
is good. I think mine's still going to be Joseph, like Part 2 Joseph.
Oh, thank you. Joseph
Yeah.
Joestar is best Joseph.
I love him.
Oh my god.
He's like the Joseph Joestar is like my girlfriend describes him as anime Bugs Bunny because that's basically all the shit.
He's kind of wacky that
That's
way.
the shit he does. Like
Yeah.
when he fights dudes.
I'm sorry, Mike, but yeah, he's my favorite. He will always be my favorite JoJo.
Second favorite.
Okay, that's fair. I do like Jotaro though because next time I go to a cosplay convention, there's a cosplay convention in Austin, Texas that I've gone to just once, and I dressed as Cloud Strife. It's actually why I'm wearing this necklace. It's actually from my cosplay. But next time I go, I'm gonna actually dress as Jotaro from Part 4. Because that's like the older, more experienced Jotaro. And I'm
Marine
like, I like
biologist. Jotaro.
I like that dress style.
Yeah.
The creator of Jojo Araki.
Yep.
He knows how to draw a fine-looking suit. So, yeah, that.
That dude's obsessed with fashion. Like,
Yes.
so many of the covers for his manga are straight up just like old covers for fashion magazines, like the same poses and all that.
The poses. I love the poses. I'm going to walk around the entire anime convention just posing everywhere.
Gotta practice those. Especially the ones that are like physically impossible.
Yeah, whatever Caesar does, where he like unhinges his elbow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, outside of video games too, like you just mentioned cosplay. You got any other hobbies to do outside of this?
I'm big into Dungeons and Dragons. I've been running campaigns as a dungeon master for a long time.
Oh, really? Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh, dang!
Ever since high school, I love
Project management must be into that.
Yeah, it does kind of, because you plan out a campaign, you layer the different pieces of it. Yeah, I love D&D. I love most tabletop games. Board games I'm big into.
Okay.
So I might check out that Alien tabletop
I'm totally in.
was referenced.
Yeah. Have you been able to check out that Agents of Mayhem board game this year?
I saw everybody
another
lining
room.
up.
It's crazy, right?
Everybody on the studio seemed to get a copy of one.
What?
That looks really exciting. Well, everybody who worked on the game.
Oh, okay. Fair.
Yeah, you had to sign up for it too because they only had so many copies.
Yeah.
And
Right.
all
Limited
that, but-
run, of course.
Yeah.
But if it does well, I'm sure they'll do more.
Sure.
I like back those Kickstarters for like Zombicide. They
Okay.
have like the enormous boxes of all the different figurines you could get. Big into board games, reading books also.
Okay.
I like old fashioned books.
What are you reading? I'm reading a couple things, so.
Right now I'm reading a book called Everything is Fucked.
All right.
Good title.
Yeah, it's a book
in.
about hope. It's kind of a mixture of philosophy and humor.
Okay.
Which I like philosophy quite a bit. So.
Now I'm just thinking of it. So the book I'm reading is trash, but it's great trash. Mike exposed me to this because he was like, years ago, Mike, you had a bunch of stuff because you were getting ready to move, and you just like threw a bunch of stuff out that you didn't want, put on the free counter, and you dropped a book called Son of Spellsinger.
Oh, yeah, man.
And
The
so
Spellsinger books are great.
My girlfriend and I have been reading through the rest of the Spellsinger series because Son of Spellsinger is like the second last book. So it's from like the 80s and early 90s, and it's just like a fantasy D&D style story where a college student accidentally gets transported to like medieval fantasy world, mostly full of talking
Like you
animals,
do,
but there's
you
some humans. But it turns out he has great magical power. He's a spell singer, which means he does magic through song. He doesn't know how to control it yet, but all of his magic he does basically through singing like Zeppelin songs and stuff with like a double-necked guitar.
Awesome.
This sounds like an
hardcore.
isekai. This sounds like a written
It is an isekai, but
Okay.
like 80s Western isekai. Yeah, it absolutely is that. But yeah, and Son of Spellsinger is about the Spellsinger's son who does magic via rapping instead. But it was written
I'm in.
It
Wow.
was
Alright.
written by like a dude who was like old enough at that point to not really have any experience or knowledge of what rap is. So all the raps, he does write raps, but they aren't great.
They're not the best raps.
But yeah, those are great. And like you were just talking about, doing D&D and stuff, especially the second book especially, it really feels like it was somebody just like taking their D&D campaign they were rolling and just like writing it in novel form.
That's honestly
I'm
some of my favorite novels are just converted D&D campaigns.
I'm not convinced that most fantasy nowadays isn't just that.
R. Scott Bakker is he studied philosophy and neuroscience when he was in college, got his PhD in that, and he wrote a series called The Prince of Nothing that is effectively based on his high school Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Wow.
But it is some of the darkest and most twisted fantasy you will ever read.
Huh.
I highly recommend it if you've got a strong stomach.
Okay. All right. I'm a little interested now.
Yeah.
All right, it's a little bit past 5 now, so I think it's time to wrap up the stream.
Yeah.
But thanks everybody for coming and watching and hearing about what project managers do here, something that we haven't been able to cover yet. But yeah, thanks. I'm Josh Stinson, the video editor here. Today on the couch we had
Ray Hazlip.
Chris Donley.
we had Mike moderating the chat as always. Thank you, Mike. And also, if this is one of your first times watching the stream or you've missed some stuff and you want to see our previous stuff, that's all archived on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/VolitionTube. They usually go about a week after we stream. We stream every Thursdays, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific, and we will see you next week. See you later, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.